G'day, ZiggyD here with another Path of Exile guide. In today's video I'm going to be taking a look at currency and crafting items. Path of Exile has no gold or any other monetary system for that matter. Instead, all trading is done through barter, that is, trading items for items. These items can include gear, skill gems, and the specific category of items known as currency. Each currency item actually does something in the game, usually in relation to crafting, and the value of each is tied to its rarity and its usefulness. A barter economy like this means that values are largely dependent on what either party in the trade wants and how much they want them. As such, I can't really give you guys a guide to the value of each currency item, so instead I'm going to go over what most of them do and their relative rarity in the game. Consider this a primer on the currency items, and if you're new to Raycast, then this should serve as a good starting point for you. So let's start with the most basic and common currency items in the game, the Scrolls of Wisdom and the Portal Scrolls. Portal Scrolls do exactly what they sound like they do. They open portals from anywhere, any other map to bring you back to town, and the Scrolls of Wisdom will identify unidentified items like this. So the first broad category of currency items are magic item crafting, anything that turns a white item into a blue item, and then anything that tinkers with that blue item's stats. So the first currency item we have here is the Orb of Transmutation. The Orb of Transmutation will simply turn a white item like this helmet into a blue item, like so. Now blue items can roll two possible stats. They can roll a prefix and a suffix, and here we can see that Gilded Helmet is the base item type, and of the Whelping is the suffix there, which is fire resistance. Now the next magic crafting item we have is the Orb of Alteration. This will take any existing magic item and re-roll it with new magical stats, so we can turn this Gilded Helmet of the Whelping into Reanimator's Gilded Helmet, which again only has one stat. Now they can possibly roll one or two stats, that's just random chance there, but this one we've got here is the 1+ level of minion gems in this item. So now let's say we really like this stat here, this minion gems stat. We can decide to add an additional stat to it. So this has the prefix, we can add the suffix to it, and that's done through the Orb of Augmentation. So we take this Orb of Augmentation, use it on this helmet, and it provides a suffix. So this time we've got lightning resistance. And if for some reason we decide that we didn't like this second roll, we can use an Orb of Alteration again and try again. Now we can keep using Orb of Alterations until we get a satisfactory set of magical stats. Now you'll mostly be using these magical crafting items earlier in the game, and then you probably won't use them for a while you mostly stick with using rares, but then much later in the game they'll be commonly used to roll low and mid-level maps. So the next broad category of crafting currencies is the item quality improvement currencies, which you can see down the bottom here. Now these range from simple quality improvements on armor from the armorer's scrap, to weapon quality improvements, the Blacksmith whetstone, armor giving typically additional bonus evasion armor or energy shield, and weapons just giving bonus base damage. Now from there we also have the Glassblowers bauble, which improves the quality of flasks, which improves the amount or the time that flasks heal for or regenerate your mana or any other effects that flasks give. Then we have the Cartographer's Chisel, which improves the quality of maps, which basically improves the amount of stuff that will drop in those maps that you use them on. And then we have a particularly rare currency in the game, the Gemcutter's Prism. Gemcutter's Prism is considered a endgame trading currency simply because it's used to improve the quality of gems, and that's a very minimal gain for the expense of the currency, and this is because it's something people only really want to do in the end game to try and improve certain skills and to really fine-tune their build. So again, the use of these is pretty simple. However, the effectiveness of these particular currencies depends on the item that you're using them on. If you use it on a white item like this, the Cutlass, it'll give 5%. The maximum quality is 20%, so that means it only takes 4 whetstones to improve a weapon to 20% if it's white. However, if we turn this white item into a blue item, then we use the whetstone, it'll only provide 2%, and then if it's a rare item or a unique item, it'll only provide 1%. So you can see it's much more effective to use your quality improvement currencies before you roll them into magic or rare. So on that note, let's take a look at rare crafting. Now the first currency in the rare crafting category is actually one that can craft magic or rares, and it's the Orb of Chance. The Orb of Chance basically takes any white item and has a random chance of converting it to either a white, rare, or even a unique item if you have the right base type that can turn into a unique. The next tier in this particular category is the Orb of Alchemy. Orb of Alchemy is a nice mid-level currency, and you'll see it used for trading for a lot of mid-low level gear and relatively common skills. It's just a nice, easy currency that's not too rare, but also not too common. And as you can see, it'll upgrade a white item straight into a rare item, so it's also a pretty good way to craft yourself any nicely improved quality weapons or armor that you have that you actually want to use. Now the next tier is slightly rarer, and it's the Chaos Orb. A Chaos Orb will take a rare item and change it into another rare item, exactly the same way that the Orb of Alteration works. And then the next tier is the Regal Orb, which upgrades a magic item to a rare item. Now, this might not sound as exciting as upgrading from a white item to a rare item, but it actually has a lot of potential in crafting, a lot of potential applications. Let's say we have this blue helmet here, and this has absolutely perfect magic helmet stats. It doesn't exactly, it has terrible stats, but we'll pretend it does. If we use a Regal Orb to upgrade it to a rare, it will maintain those initial stats. For the purpose of education, I'm going to demonstrate this and waste this relatively rare currency here. So what actually happened there was actually a little bit confusing. It rolled an additional stat that gave it block chance and stun recovery, but basically it converted that magic item into a rare item, giving it another stat. Now, rares can range from anywhere from 3 to 6 stats, anything more than a magic item, and there are additional currencies to improve that, just like we have with the Orb of Augmentation here. And that currency is called the Exalted Orb. I don't have any Exalted Orbs to show you guys, unfortunately, because they are quite rare. But each Exalted Orb's use will simply add an extra affix to an already crafted rare. So hopefully you guys have been able to keep up thus far and haven't lost you. If I have lost you at this point, feel free to ask any questions in the comments and I'll answer them as best I can. Now the next broad category is socket crafting. Now, of course, all items have sockets, and the sockets on items are actually very important because the way that you link gems to support gems and how many of those you can put in your gear is actually a huge part of your build. So the first currency for changing the sockets of an item is the Chromatic Orb. Now, these are relatively common, and all that they do is change the colors of the existing sockets. They don't change the links or the amount of sockets. So here we can see we've got 2 red, and a green. If we use this here, we change them to all red. Now that's completely random. However, the base item type has an inclination towards certain colors. As this is a strength armor piece, it's much more likely to roll red sockets and much less likely to roll green or blue sockets. Now the next socket crafting currency is the Jeweler's Orb, which reforges the number of sockets on an item. So just here, the sun plate has 2 linked sockets there. We use it on here, and we can upgrade it to 3 there. We could keep rolling this until we potentially got 4 or 5 or 6 sockets. Now this is obviously useful if you have a really good rare or unique item that you want to get a certain amount of sockets on, and you can sink a lot of these Jeweler's Orbs into trying to roll the right amount of sockets. And then the final socket crafting currency item is the Orb of Fusing, and the Orb of Fusing will take it will basically reforge the links of those sockets that you already have. So let's say we want to turn this 2 link here and an additional socket into a 3 link. We can use this to try and get it. Now move the socket there, and oh, we were lucky, we managed to get a 3 link. Now the next category I want to take a look at is the miscellaneous currency items, things that don't really fit in with these other particular categories. So first up we have the Orb of Scouring. These will remove all properties from an item. Now these aren't used too frequently, but if you want to start from scratch, change a rare item back into a white item, then you can use the Orb of Scouring like this, and it'll turn it back into a white item. Of course, then you can use like your armor scraps and things like that to upgrade the item, and then you can roll it again. Now those Orb of Scourings can be traded through the vendor system into Orb of Regrets, which are basically the game's respec system. Orb of Regrets are a pretty rare, and they trade fairly well because a lot of people often want to respec certain passive abilities in their build. So let's take a look at my passive tree at the moment. I have zero respec points, but if we use one of these Orb of Regrets, simply right clicking it will give us a respec point to spend on this character. Pretty simple stuff. Now the other category of currencies I just want to cover briefly is other rare currencies that you might end up finding and not realizing that they are quite rare. So first up we have the Divine Orb, which is used when crafting rares to re-randomize the number of the affixes on that rare. So if you have a rare with a good set of affixes already but just poor numbers, you can use that to try and improve the numbers. And the next one we have is the Blessed Orb, which randomizes the implicit values of things like jewelry and belts. I'll just go find a a jewelry. Here we go, we've got this here. So the 28% increased mana regeneration is that implicit value, and Blessed Orbs will re-roll that. These aren't used all that commonly, but they are a fairly rare currency, and the things they are used on are usually sought after when people do want to use them. They're often used on things like uniques, like the Demigod's Presence, to try and perfect them. And the final currency item is the Mirror of Kalandra. This is the rarest currency of them all. It will duplicate almost any item in the game, including perfect rares and even maps. So you can imagine they're fairly sought after by high level players who want to duplicate their perfect gear. So while I mentioned at the start that I can't really give you a value of each currency item, there are ways that you can find approximate trade values as worked out by the community. Now this isn't accurate, but it gives you a good idea of how many Scouring Orbs will trade for Alchemy Orbs and things like that. Now the best site to go for this sort of currency exchange rates is poex.info. I'll put the link in the description below. Now remember, this isn't the Bible of trade values, it just gives you a good idea to work off. The actual value of currencies is always going to depend on the person you're trading with. Anyway, that's it for this video. Hopefully you guys have found this helpful and now have a good idea of the currencies in Path of Exile. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.